Hi, it's Chris Moore with Senior Remodeling Experts. Welcome to Aging in Place is a Team Sport. It's a video series where we talk to different providers. We explore how families, professionals, and communities can come together to help older adults live safely, comfortably, and independently at home. I'm here to guide you, connect you with the right resources, and help make the rest of your life the best of your life. Welcome back to Aging in Place is a Team Sport. I'm Chris Moore with Senior Remodeling Experts, and I am delighted to have with me today Jillian Reece and Jordan Truster with Lovely Loops. So glad to have you.
Thank you so
tell
much.
me and our listeners what Lovely Loops is.
Yeah, so Lovely Loops is the name of our business. We are twin sisters, and we started our business in 2017, Jordan? Yeah, 2017. And we teach calligraphy. So we started out teaching in-person calligraphy workshops about 10 years ago. And then after a few years of doing calligraphy, practicing calligraphy, we started teaching online courses. So we have online calligraphy classes that we teach and an online calligraphy community. And we just love what we do. We love to connect with other people who are enthusiastic about learning how to make their letters look more beautiful and all of the amazing benefits that come with doing calligraphy.
So tell me about those benefits. What does it do for people that learn
Yeah.
calligraphy?
Yeah, of course. There are lots of different pens that you can use for calligraphy. We teach people how to use brush pens, which are kind of like flexible markers. And then we also teach people how to use pointed pens, which are, you dip those into ink. So a little bit more of like a traditional style. We actually also teach iPad calligraphy, which is a modern way of doing it. But the common factor between all of those is, like you said, beautiful writing and writing by hand. And calligraphy is something that looks very beautiful, but it actually isn't something that you need artistic talent for. In fact, both of us are very analytical brained. I actually studied engineering in college, and Jillian studied business analytics. So we are both very analytical. And so that comes across in the way that we teach calligraphy as a very step-by-step process that you follow. And we break it down into basic shapes. So for example, if you can draw an oval shape and a U shape, then you can make the letter lowercase a. So the result is beautiful writing, but one of the benefits of doing calligraphy is the process of actually writing by hand and slowing down and following this step-by-step process that actually ends up being very relaxing in the process of doing it.
So there's a hand-eye brain coordination that's going on that maybe helps people with cognitive function at some level?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And it's interesting. So we're in our 30s and we started our online community, which is called Calligraphy Together. And something that we noticed is lots of the people joining our membership are people who have recently retired and they are looking for something to kind of keep that stimulation of their brain and cognitive abilities while also doing something beautiful and meaningful. So that is definitely something that people who maybe they've entered this new phase of their life of retirement and they're kind of looking for that new identity to step into. That's something that can give them that, something to learn, something new to learn, even as they have maybe finished their career and they're stepping into retirement, is something that they can keep their brain active. And also like the hand-eye coordination, all that good stuff.
Yeah. I know that a lot of schools don't even teach cursive writing anymore, which I think is abysmal. Do you see your work as maybe helping bring some of that back?
Yeah, we have a lot of people who tell us, like, I wish I had beautiful handwriting. And I think part of the problem is we just are so integrated into using our phones and our computers that people just don't write by hand a lot anymore. And I'm sure that's why schools have stopped teaching it. I've actually recently seen that they're starting to bring it back. And I also think that's part of the reason why a lot of retirees specifically are interested in this, because it's kind of nostalgic, but then they also want to pass this along to maybe their grandkids as something that is important to be able to do, is to write by hand. It has a lot of benefits actually with memory. There have been studies in students, like in college students, of comparing people that took notes on their computer versus took notes by hand. And taking notes by hand it just increases your memory retention and even your learning because you can't just mindlessly type what someone's saying. You have to kind of synthesize it and maybe take some shortcut notes and kind of maybe even make some diagrams when you are writing by hand instead of just kind of like dictating what you are hearing.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm very much pen and paper,
Hmm.
always have been. And I think that's true. Something about the act of writing it down helps to gel it in your brain in some way. So what kinds of projects do people use calligraphy for? Would it be like a memento, a certificate of some kind? Give me some examples of.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And a lot of people want to use calligraphy for sending cards, beautifying their everyday life. So whether it's sending an envelope to someone, but they can write the address and the name in calligraphy. There's also a lot of people who want to do a specific project, like maybe wedding invitations or wedding place cards. That's actually how I got into calligraphy. I'm celebrating my 10-year anniversary next week. And so it was 11 years ago that I got into it for my wedding calligraphy. And then like family keepsakes is a big thing. I know someone in our community recently just made this beautiful wedding gift for someone that had this poem about marriage and had the couple's name and wedding date on it. So things like that, where it's kind of marking a special moment in someone's life with words that go along with it. So quotes and poems and things like that is something we see a lot.
We
And
also
then
see people combining calligraphy with other art forms that they may do. So we have a lot of people who have always been crafty and maybe do scrapbooking or painting, like watercolor. Zentangle is another doodling kind of drawing activity that people like to combine calligraphy with.
But something that I do think is interesting, though, is like we have this whole framework of teaching calligraphy, and the project piece of it is only about a fifth of what people do. Really, a huge thing that people love about calligraphy, aside from the end result of creating a project, is like Jordan mentioned earlier, just the process of doing it, even just the process of practicing, like practicing ovals or practicing writing the same letter over and over. We find that there are people who maybe don't even make any projects. They just work on their worksheets and practice writing words and share it in the community to see someone else's take on how they would have written the word in calligraphy. And so just the act of practicing is another way that people can use calligraphy and share it with other people.
Yeah, I think that there is something that happens when we master a skill, when we really just continue to work on it until we're really happy with the end result. Maybe the skill itself is less important than the process and the persistence.
Yeah.
I think in so many ways our culture is we have been programmed to expect instant results and microwave life, and if we don't get the results we're looking for immediately, there's a tendency to give up. And I think that following through on learning a skill has a benefit in and of itself,
Yeah. And
because
being able to make progress towards a goal as well is huge for people.
yeah. So you have your online community. Tell me the name of that again.
It's called Calligraphy Together.
Calligraphy Together. Where would somebody go be a part of that or find out more about it? Is that
Yeah,
So
calligraphytogether.com is where that lives. And we might even be able to start talking a little bit about the benefit of community as far as learning a new hobby, because that's kind of the whole thing around calligraphy together is the word together, doing it together with other people.
so? Do you have in-person chapters or meetings, or is it all online?
Yes, right. It's all online, although we do use Zoom to do face-to-face calls like this. So we just had one on Wednesday. And so right now everything's online. It would be really amazing if we could form some sort of in-person web of the members who are in it, but right now it's just online.
Okay. And so are there courses? I mean, if somebody wants to learn more, can they order from you, a course and some materials and kind of work through that?
We do have online courses on a variety of topics. And then in the Calligraphy Together community, it's a membership. And with the membership, you do get access to the courses. So all of our tutorials, everything, all of the lessons are recorded so people can watch them at their own pace. We have worksheets that you can download and print right away so that you can just kind of print whatever you're currently working on. And then we do also have supply recommendations. And one of the benefits of our community is that we have people from all over the world, which is really cool because we have actually had people that met in our community that then met in real life. But we have people from the UK and from, I think, almost every state in the US, which is really amazing because, and I think that's one of the benefits of having this online community is because calligraphy is not an extremely common skill or interest, although we are trying to kind of advocate for calligraphy and raise awareness for it. But you may be the only person in your town that you know of that does calligraphy. So they may not have a calligraphy class if you live somewhere, especially like somewhere more remote, or
Right.
for people that are unable to get to to go to a class, the online community helps people connect over the shared interest.
Okay. So how many people do you have in your group?
Right now we have 500 people in our membership. Over the years, we've actually taught tens of thousands of students in our courses and in our, I guess, like our social media following as well.
That's amazing. Because you, like you said, I mean, it's not a, a real mainstream kind of skill that you would think of that, you know, large numbers of people are searching for. So how did you build this? That's very, very interesting to me. You said, Jillian, that you started your interest doing your own wedding. And then how did it grow from that to where you have 500 people all over the world that are part of your community?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, I started. So another piece of the story we didn't even mention yet is that we took a calligraphy class when we were kids, when we were 10 years old. So that kind of planted the seed of like beautiful letters. But then, yeah, so then when I got engaged, that was one of the first thoughts that came to mind was wanting to do my own wedding calligraphy. And so I tried to figure it out on my own. This was like 11 years ago. So there wasn't like today there's YouTube. You can kind of Google and find a little bit of information online, but back only 11 years ago, there wasn't really anything. So I was trying to figure it out on my own, bought some books. I ended up taking a class that was really helpful in showing some of the basics and then also showing me some of the things I knew I didn't want to learn. And took that class, then found on Instagram, there were a bunch of people who were posting pictures of their own lettering, like calligraphy, modern type of hand lettering. So I followed a bunch of other people who were learning. And then at this point also brought Jordan in to kind of share this new obsession of calligraphy, trying to figure out how to make these beautiful letters, how to use these pens. And she and I Jordan and I would FaceTime each other, video call each other since we were living in different cities at the time. Share like, wow, look at this new thing I discovered. And we just fell in love with it and decided so we made our own workbook on how to learn calligraphy. And we used that workbook to teach in-person workshops in Ohio and Tennessee. And that started gaining traction just with people who saw us posting pictures of our beautiful calligraphy online. We started an Instagram and a YouTube channel, and people started asking us like, oh, can you teach me how to do that? So started teaching in-person classes. Then we discovered online courses were a thing. So this was before the pandemic. So before online teaching was really that mainstream. We just kind of found out about it, figured it out. And really it's just kind of like a linear growth from that point until now. We just consistently shared tutorials, shared what we were working on online, shared tips about how to improve your calligraphy. As we figured out new methods and tools, we created online courses around that, and we grew an email list so we could stay in contact with everyone. And it's just been an amazing, amazing ride.
Yeah. Well, I think, what stands out to me in that story is that if you follow something you're passionate about and you put it out there, you will attract people because so many people are searching for purpose. They're searching for
Mhm.
significance. They're searching for meaning. And they find somebody who's passionate about what they're doing. They're attracted to that because so many people are, like I said, are looking for purpose and looking for meaning. And I just love that just kind of grew organically out of something that you all learned at 10 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, and I'm in the construction business, and there's a lot of, there's a lot of talk in construction forums about how, a lot of the real crafts people who know the craftsmanship and the trades are older, and young people are not coming into the hands-on professions nearly at the rate that we need to replace the people who are aging out, if you will, of the trades. And there's so many crafts and trades and professions and hands-on kind of knowledge of doing things that really are in danger of kind of being forgotten. And, and I think handwriting and calligraphy probably fits right into that,
Mhm.
because I mean, you look at old books and how a lot of them are works of art beyond just being books. And even the what do they call it when in a book where the first letter of a chapter is embellished, and
Yeah. Yeah.
is there
Um,
is there a term for that?
there is a term. I know that illuminating letters is one technique for emphasizing
Yeah.
one letter.
Yeah, that sounds right. So, it would just, and it's just that pride of workmanship, that pride of what you have created, that, with your own artistic endeavors.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that, like we already said, is slowing down and really kind of realizing that this is something, it's a skill that builds over time and it's not instant. It's not something you can just instantly have, but slowing down is actually one of like the benefits of doing it, because I think in life, everyone's just always rushing, trying to get to the next thing, trying to fill every minute with something, whether it's like opening your phone and watching videos or whatever it is. And doing something like calligraphy or like any of these crafts forces you to slow down, do something with your hands, and um, gets gets you into that flow state where you're we've had students describe doing calligraphy having similar effects to meditation, where they describe it as being very like zenful. We have
Wow.
people say that it's like meditation, but it's easier because you're actually doing something, and I think it's really hard to just like sit there and not think. But when you're doing
Yeah,
calligraphy, yeah, you kind of get out of your head and into your hand.
that's very interesting. I never thought of it that way. So you were talking about like the practice or the effect of mastering some basic movements. Like you might encourage somebody to sit and do a whole page of ovals or a whole page of um, different shapes. So would that be part of your workbook when you're learning, is that you would have those exercises to get good at specific movements that would then be combined?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, one of the very first courses that someone would take when they start is we have one called 30 Days of Calligraphy. And so, basically, we start with a little intro of what it is. And then every day it's one letter. And so, you're just focusing, learning how to write one letter. And we break it down into the 3 or 4 strokes that make up that letter. And instead of just practicing it once and moving on to the next one, it's a whole entire page where you trace it, you get the muscle memory starting to build. Then you try it on your own. And then you go to the next one and you trace like however many examples fit on the line, like 20 ovals. And then you try it on your own, because doing it one time is not going to be enough to memorize it. So, and then when you go to day 2 and you do the next letter, there's only, so one of the cool things about the style of calligraphy that we teach is there's 8 strokes, 8 shapes that make up like the majority of the lowercase letters. And so once you learn those and start to really practice them, like we've said the oval a few times, if you think of like a lowercase a, G, Q,
D.
D, O. Yeah. So like those all have the exact same oval in the middle. So yeah, once you get that down, once you get these 8 shapes down and you practice them over and over, it actually becomes a lot easier to learn 26 letters. And like Jordan was saying, getting into that flow state of just all you have to focus on right now. You don't have to worry about what's going on in your life. You just have to focus on making this one oval and then doing it again and doing it again. It's really calming and peaceful. And you're also making progress on something.
That reminds me of the movie The Karate Kid, where he's got him painting the fence, and he's like, "This is ridiculous. I'm supposed to be learning karate," and he's actually teaching him the movement the basic movement that then becomes part of something else that he had no idea. So I could see that, where, what are we doing here? We're just drawing ovals. I thought we were going to be, writing letters. And you're like, well, you're gaining the building blocks that will then enable you to move to the next level. That's so cool.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah. So, and then I assume that you can, maybe more advanced, there would be, different fonts or different styles or different, how does,
Yeah.
Right,
So,
so-
the way we think about it is this framework that we have called STEPS. So STEPS, each letter explains one part of it.
You're exactly right that you start with the building blocks and then build up to more advanced techniques. So in STEPS, the first S means shapes, like we just said, the ovals, all the basic shapes or basic strokes that make up the letters. And then T is tools. We mentioned at the beginning, there are different kinds of calligraphy pens you can use. There are brush pens, pointed pens, even Apple Pencil on the iPad. So that in that phase, you're focusing on the tools. And we use what are called pressure sensitive tools, meaning you get pressure or you use pressure to create thick or thin strokes. So more pressure creates a thicker stroke, less pressure is a thinner stroke. There are other types of pens that change thickness based on how the tip is angled. But for us, we use pressure, and that gives that characteristic look of calligraphy where some parts are thicker than others. So that's in the T. Okay. And then E is embellishments. And this is where we're layering on top of the basic letters. We're layering on different styles, one of which is called flourishing. Flourishing is where you add extensions of the letters, where you're adding loops and swirls and just making it look a little bit more fancy. We also teach different letter variations in this phase where you can write the same letter for any given letter of the alphabet. We could show you 16 to 20 different ways to write it, which gives you different styles. And then P is presentation. This is where you take everything you've learned and you put it together in compositions. So we teach you how to lay out a quote and then how to add other elements in a composition. Jillian's showing on video right now. Yep, there you go.
Oh, wow.
So in this piece here, she used a brush pen. You can see there's a little bit of style added into some of these letters, like on the G in grow, there's a flourish at the bottom. And then part of what makes this a composition instead of just like writing, and then here's another example that she's showing on camera of flourishing, but adding in a few other elements and like thoughtfully designing how the words are on the page instead of just like writing the words. You're thoughtfully designing a composition. So that's the presentation. And then the last S, which can be incorporated throughout, but this is sharing, and this is creating something specifically to give to someone else. So you can create a composition for someone else, or we teach specific things like envelope addressing, creating cards. We have a whole course about wedding calligraphy where you can create signs for like a wooden sign or a chalkboard sign, and basically taking your skill and being able to go beyond the practice of it and actually confidently share it with other people.
So really you're evoking a feeling when somebody looks at, your finished product more than just the words on the page.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. That's exactly right.
So, let me kind of bring this full circle. This podcast is Aging in Place as a Team Sport, and we focus on how I believe that most people live a more purposeful and fulfilling life in the homes that they love. A lot of people, the conventional wisdom that we, at a certain point, we sell our homes and we move into a retirement community of some kind. A lot of people don't want to do that. And we're all about enhancing the experience of aging in place. And so what has been your experience with your art form in working with people who are maybe later in life and might need some cognitive challenges, some new things to learn, some community to keep them connected with other people? Do you have any stories, any anecdotes of people kind of in that situation that you've helped?
Yes, we have we have lots of stories, lots of quotes that people have told us, like just the idea that someone recently told us that they feel like getting into calligraphy has given them a whole new lease on life. It just gives them something to, you were talking earlier about finding meaning and purpose and not just sitting there and doing something meaningful. Or we've had so many people tell us that the community aspect of it, like you said, people, they may want to stay where they are in their home. And that doesn't always lend itself to if you were living with other people, but being able to use technology to connect with other people, especially people who have a shared interest or goal like calligraphy. So we just had a Zoom call a couple of days ago where we had many people join and have conversations with each other and do small group breakout rooms where they can feel, where they don't feel lonely. They don't feel that sense of loneliness because they have other people that they can connect with.
And also doing calligraphy is such a great hobby to have that you can easily do at home. It doesn't require tons of fancy equipment or tons of like expensive supplies. And really all you need is like a piece of paper and a pen. And we have people tell us that they have gotten into this habit of doing calligraphy like in the morning when they drink their coffee, or like at night when they're watching TV, they're doing it on a piece of paper on a clipboard just as another thing to do with their hands. And we have so many people who, like we said before, have retired and then they're looking for something meaningful to do, or even like empty nesters, or people that have been caregivers, or people that have been just like busy their entire lives helping other people, and now they have a chance to do something for themselves. And I love that you're kind of, it seems like you're making your mission to make retirement not be this thing where we're just expected to do nothing, but we do things that help us physically, but also cognitively. And I do think that calligraphy really lends itself to helping people keep that mental sharpness and meaning and progression and all these things that we've talked about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole idea of retirement is a fairly recent development. I mean, people think that, well, it's always been around and it hasn't. I think that the idea of, especially if you've been doing something in your career that wasn't your passion, that was something you did, and then to me, the number of people that go to work every day doing something they hate is just, why? Why would you? It never made any sense to me. But, I think that there's a shift. I know there's a shift because you see it across the board. So many people are rethinking this whole idea of retirement. And more people are changing their mindset in that, maybe it's a chance to shift to doing something that I really enjoy doing. And whether or not it's something that you get monetary compensation for, but it's something that you get joy and fulfillment and purpose out of. And the idea that retirement means you stop working and you sit down and put your feet up and then, that's it. That doesn't work very well because we all need a purpose. We all need a reason to get up in the morning. We all need something that inspires us and encourages us to reach others and have an impact on the world around us. And whatever that might be, it's different for different people. But the idea that retirement is just, we stop and just take it easy, I think is fading. And I'm glad because it doesn't work. So, I love talking to people who are passionate about what they do. And like I said, it's infectious. And I'm sure that a lot of that is the reason for your success because you're obviously enjoying what you do. You have a lot of passion for what you do. And then people can, be part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we feel very, very privileged to be able to connect with the people who are in our community who want to learn with us. And even if the listeners right now, maybe calligraphy isn't something you've been wanting to try, but any sort of hobby, a creative hobby is just, there's so much you can get out of it. And so we are very strong advocates of finding whatever that looks like for you.
Yes. Yeah. We had someone on with Artfully Aging and she does watercolor and, had a lot of the same kind of passion that you two have about, her art. And I think that the idea of art creativity, we're everybody, people say, well, I'm not creative. I think we're all creative in different aspects and finding the aspect of creativity that's kind of natural and inherent in you that you can develop and work towards and improve and master is part of our journey as human beings.
Totally agree. Yes.
So any other thoughts, anything maybe that I have not touched on that you would like to add? or any message that you would have to a listener who's hearing this and thinking, wow, I never really thought about calligraphy and that might be interesting.
I guess I would just wrap it up by saying that doing calligraphy does have a lot of like benefits just from doing it because it's an activity that allows you to slow down and focus and all these things that we've said feels like you're in this really relaxed state, which then has ripple effects in your life. It helps you calm down. It's like a very stress relieving activity as well, which can just help you in all areas of your life. And we are advocates for people getting a hobby. And we've also kind of jokingly said that we're advocates for calligraphy being the easiest hobby to get into because most people have learned how to write by hand at some point in their life. And actually, a lot of people that do learn with us tried calligraphy many years ago, like maybe 30 years ago, they tried it. And so it's really quite easy to get into. And Jillian was talking about our 30 days of calligraphy where you just start day 1, learn how to write the letter A. Day 2, we go through the alphabet. So it's really easy to get into. And I would say if this sparked an interest to just try it out and
Yeah,
go ahead.
and then almost like the side benefit of doing this is that now you have this skill of being able to make beautiful gifts for your friends and family or just for yourself. I have quotes that I've written that I just put up around my house that I love. So that's almost like that the result is like the byproduct of having this as a hobby. So we just absolutely love calligraphy and have met the most amazing people through calligraphy.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I've really enjoyed our conversation. And so you mentioned calligraphytogether.com. We'll put that in the show notes. Any other way that people can reach out to you or get in touch with you, or is that the main avenue?
That's the website for our membership. We also have social media accounts if someone wanted to like watch some of our videos on YouTube to get a sense of what we teach and how we teach. Lovely Loops, again, is our main website that would link to our other social media channels. And then calligraphytogether.com is our membership community.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being here. And I wish you all the best. And to all of our listeners, thank you for listening to Aging in Place is a Team Sport, and have a wonderful day. And we'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you.